Okay, so here's quite possibly the fastest intro to trend lines you're ever going to see. A trend line is an imaginary path connecting a couple of points to create a direction. That gives you a bias. So instead of trying to explain it any deeper than that, let's just jump into the charts. So to start with, assuming the trend moves on down and we get something quite ugly that looks like this, we then start to see the trend reverse and give us an impulsive move, a corrective move, an impulsive move, a corrective move, another impulsive move. So we can clearly see that we've now got a swing low that I'd like to start from. In terms of taking the trend line, I personally click the bottom, drag the trend out, and come across until I get some kind of touch. The first touch being here. Now obviously some people will argue that, oh, this needs to come down there and it's not a trend line unless this happens, and this is the perfect example. Guys, that doesn't happen in the real world. You're actually going to get trend lines. You can actually put trend lines in trend lines. The trend inside the trend might actually come down and look like something like this inside this move. Might not actually come to your bottom before moving on up again. So the idea is you can use this on every kind of time frame. It's obviously fractal. We can put another trend line in this and we can keep on going. But ultimately, if I'm looking at a bigger time frame, I'm happy with this as a trend line. The price, like I said, might not come down to my key level, but this is good enough to give me an overall bias, an overall direction. So if I take some of these off the chart a second, now what I'm looking at is the inverse to this. I'm actually looking for a downtrend. Now, just as we had the first downtrend moving into an uptrend, we're going to say, let's start our downtrend move from here. So we're going to get something that obviously looks a little bit like a W move, and this will give us our downtrend. So basically, I'm starting the same concept, swinging this out, pulling them all the way down until I get some kind of touch. Now for me, again, a very similar concept to the uptrend. We didn't get the touch expected there, but again, this is the real world. So some people will argue it and it's, oh, this is wrong and this is not the right way to do it, it should look something like this. And as I said, guys, it's kind of each to their own. For me personally, that's not the issue. So what I'd like to do is to put this into an example on the chart. Let's get rid of some of these drawings and let's flip straight into a real live chart. Now obviously we can see from an example like this, if I was to swing out a trend line all the way across until I get some kind of touch, clearly we've got a move there, a move back there, another move over here, and it's not until this point we actually get a clear defined touch. Now obviously, as this was playing out in real time, we could have been drawing a first trend line there, we could have had another trend line there, so this is a very, very subjective method as a whole, and not just what I'm trying to show. It's a subjective point as a whole in the industry. I think a lot of retail new traders use trend lines. Later on, guys, you get to see what the trend is doing. It's it's pretty self-explanatory and pretty obvious. This is clearly an uptrend, this is clearly a downtrend. We've got enough of that uptrend there, a small downtrend move here followed by a larger uptrend, and exactly what I've just painted. You can actually see these W's and M's painted over and over and over again. So basically, don't fuss too much about it, don't stress at all about it. What we're actually looking for is, with these particular trend lines, once you get a trend line break, so like I said, I'm going to take this all the way up there. My first point would have been at this level. This now gives me a trend line break at this candle, and what I can start looking for is a swing high, extend my trend line out, move it down until that first touch. The first touch gives me a point just before there. I'll move this one before, just before there, and obviously that's confirmation good enough for me in terms of taking a trend line. Now obviously we can move to the next significant swing low, so we can go from here and obviously swing that out. Now at this point this gets a little bit more interesting, because clearly we've had this kind of slight move up followed by a decent move down. So you don't really need to draw a trend line there. There's no trend there. We're actually technically going somewhat sideways. So what I'm looking for is the next swing low. I'll extend my trend line out, come across until I get this touch, and basically the next break of that trend is there, and this is what's referred to in the market as break of structure. So again, very quick simple lesson on trend lines. It is as simple as that. You don't need to complicate things. Move this until you get all the way across to the right, keep on going, get a feel for it, and do nothing but practice.